around STEMation, where states can present a united front to, say, the federal government, or where we can work together to recruit teachers for promising initiatives, evaluate promising practices, and in general try to make it easier for all of you to have a big impact on the students and communities that you seek to support. We host webinars once a month as part of a free service supported by any state that is a STEMx member. If we have a member state on the line here, we appreciate your support. And to those of you who aren't members, you know where the website is. So go ahead and contact us and get that process started. A lot of other benefits to being part of STEMx, and we'd love to get you looped into the conversation here as we do our best to make it that better for any advocate trying to make an impact on education in their state. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our team of presenters here. We're going to talk us through some of the advocacy tools around the ESSA Act. And I guess I think it's Joe that's going to kick us off here.
Actually, I think Grace is.
Grace, hand the mic over to you.
Thanks so much. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having us on. My name is Grace Doremus. I am the Head of Strategic Initiatives and Chief of Staff at 100kin10. Is it best if I just kind of let you know next slide when it's time to go forward? Okay, so I believe on here, just a quick overview of the agenda. We've already done number one. Thank you for doing that, introducing the whole webinar and giving a little bit of background on STEMx. I'm going to give us a quick overview of how we came to doing Every Student Succeed with STEM campaign along with several 100kin10 partners, and then I will hand it over to Joe, who will give an overview of what that effort is, and then Thomas Sanchez from Social Driver, who will talk us through some of the Engagement Hub details and some of the resources we have on there. We'll then, of course, close with some action steps that are pretty clear so that you have some clear things that you're taking away, tools that you can use in your own states, and an opportunity for Q&A. And then next slide, please. So, we are a national network of about 280 organizations who are committed to responding to President Obama's call for 100,000 excellent math and science teachers, or actually STEM teachers in technology, engineering, and math, as you all know very well. We launched about 5.5 years ago in 2011, June of 2011, in response to this call, which President Obama made quite public in his 2011 State of the Union address. And we began with 28 founding partners, and we're now up to 208 very diverse organizations. And as you can see here, that diversity ranges from school districts to universities to alternative teacher prep programs, to foundations and corporations, to policymakers and professional associations. So it's a really wide range of organizations. And each organization makes a commitment to either prepare new STEM teachers, to support existing STEM teachers, or somehow build the 100kin10 movement. And so if you wouldn't mind going to the slide, please. Here at 100kin10, what we do is we support partners to achieve commitments through a variety of different offerings and opportunities, many that are focused on collaboration and networking, many that are focused on learning and innovation. We also offer some instant access to funding and resources as well. And we're really focused on the idea of collective problem solving and how we can build on one another's strengths to find better ways both to prepare and support teachers, but also to really address the big underlying challenges that have existed across the system for so long that make training and supporting STEM teachers so hard. So one of those, if you don't mind going to the next slide, please, one of those offerings that we offer are called Solution Labs. And these are opportunities for partners to come together around a shared challenge and this on a collective response to those. What extra tool that they together could help and could collectively invest in that would enable those partners to really solve the challenge that they're facing. done a couple of these to date. One, you can see a little from it on the left. It was called Minds Teach STEM. It was a shared recruitment and marketing efforts that several of our partners who work to recruit and prepare STEM teachers to invest in. I think there were about 30 of them who came together to do that, and they shared some really interesting and very cool and cutting-edge resources to help attract new folks to their programs that they often weren't attracting. And so there were recent grads in STEM and actually those currently in college. And we worked with a team that formerly was at the Onion and had a bunch of very funny parts to it that you often see on the typical brochures and pamphlets that teacher prep programs use. On the right, you see another one which was a collective response to how we talk to teachers and to parents about the transition to Common Core and shares. And so the issue, as many of us know, that the rollout of the Common Core were very challenging in many schools and many districts. And so had partners come together to create some different ways of talking to parents and to teachers about what these standards mean to help support them to be implemented in a healthier and more successful way. And so if you mind going to the next slide, we, when ESSA was passed, we had a lot of partners who were looking for support around how to engage their communities in advocating for STEM in their states and in their districts. And so we brought these partners together to think about this challenge and ended up deciding that with that what they really needed was a shared set of messaging and an overarching messaging strategy along with resources and tools that would help them engage their communities and actually speak themselves directly to their state leaders about the importance of prioritizing STEM in their ESSA plans. And so as you can see here, we have 18 partners who have co-invested in work, including STEMx and Washington STEM. And that has been a really exciting effort that we've been engaged in for, I guess, since October or November now. And we are really gearing up as states are definitely going down around their implementation plans. And so I'm excited to put off to Joe Walsh of Collaborative Communications to share a little bit more about it. And these 18 partners did co-invest in a proposal by Collaborative Communications, and Social Driver to help bring this effort to life. So we are excited to hear a little bit more from both Joe and Thomas today.
Very good. Thank you, Grace. This is Joe Walsh, by the way, at Collaborative Communications Group, where I'm the Senior Vice President and recently worked with the U.S. Department of Education right at the time we were trying to do the, working with Congress to write ESSA. Here for the last few months working and so to try to support some partners who are thinking about creative ways to support good implementation on ESSA. I think take a look at the next slide. There's just a little slide that's placed there that a little bit about partnership that we have that we to Grace and 100kin10 and the partnership there as a way to support the work of this effort. And you'll hear from me first on some of the advocacy, strategy, and communications pieces of this, and then I'll pass the baton at the end. When I'm done, I'll pass the baton to Sanchez, who is a part of Social Driver, and we'll carry forward on some of the resources and some of the ways to implement some of these advocacy and communication strategies that we've you probably, some of you, I know, we had a chance to all meet in Dallas when I came down to the STEMx meeting down in Dallas and talk about very broadly the work we're doing at STEMx on STEM communications. Anthony from Social Driver came down and at that time gave you some social media tips as well. So for those of you who were that before, it's good to be able to talk to you again. And for all of you, some of us I think will be and specifically focused around this challenge of prioritizing and promoting STEM within this new ESSA context, which is similar but a very specific challenge that most states are engaged in right now. The next slide is going to pop up with a little bit of or is the place to do a poll that Rob has queued for us. So I'll turn it over to you, but there it is. So I'll talk just a little bit unless, Rob, you wanted to set the table?
Nope, just you only got 2 minutes, so yep.
And time's a wasting. So you see it up there. Here's what we want to do. We know a lot of you, especially the leaders in states around the country, have already been committing acts of advocacy to try to make ESSA work better and to make sure that STEM is a priority. We'd love if you would take a quick second here on this poll to us if you have already taken a step to try to influence those state ESSA plans. Have those? What types of things have you already tried to do? There are, of course, no wrong answers on this poll, but now I've filibustered through much of the time. If you grab the rest of it to click away, and we'll take a look at the results in a second.
Yes, our last 30 seconds for the poll. I'll give you a sense here. I think if I do this right, we put our initial results up.
Okay. So are the final pending a recount?
Yeah, let me read this. Assisting for me. I'm learning along with you. Tells me to wait for a moment. And, okay, so put this up on the slide for everyone. Whoops. There we go. Okay, those are the finals.
So that right, about 60%. I'm going to take the no answer as I don't know how to make my button work. I'm on a mobile device, or I haven't had a chance to do one of these bits of advocacy yet. The 60%, 59% who did, looks like pretty evenly divided there. Okay, so a third between commenting on the draft plan, contacting your state chief, or some other way been active. So we can go ahead to the next slide, but I can tell we're probably already done here because you've already done a lot of the great activities that we're going to be encouraging folks to do. I'm going to want to do a couple things. I'm going to talk a little bit for those of you who haven't been active, some tools and tricks and some suggestions that we're going to recommend. And hopefully during the Q&A period and some of the comments, we might be able to get to someplace really interesting on how the 30% or so who have done one or more of those actions to try to influence the state plans, how those have gone so far. Let's step back now that we've got a sense of the fact that some folks out there are trying to set the table and do some good work. Here are broad goals that we went into with the challenge of making STEM and STEM teachers a part of the new plans. Just to state the obvious is that these activities have to be prioritized under the new Every Student Succeeds Act. It sounds pretty obvious, it sounds pretty basic, it sounds like it's not all by itself enough, and really, really is. Folks are just figuring out what this law is, how to use it, the very basics of this, and a lot of stuff that was specifically in the old versions of the ESSA, specifically catered to STEM, are gone now. The idea of there's all this flexibility and all this potential for STEM and all these allowed activities, but making sure that it's a top priority is really important. We're advising folks to first then frame and define it. Folks don't know what this is. Then folks think about ESSA, they think about accountability systems, probably still at this point, and not really sure what those other pieces are. And the two things that infuse ESSA are the idea of providing students with a well-rounded education and the idea of promoting equity. And that's why when we say define, frame and define, making sure that folks know STEM is in fact a big part of ESSA and specifically meets the two fundamental goals that ESSA laid out, well-rounded education and equity. We'll talk about some tactics to do that. Next big strategy was just to make sure that then, I'm sorry, I can go back to one, that policy and funding guidance are reflected in these plans. And then one of the other big goals we have is to share what's working. And this is where for folks who are hoping to be able to find some, you've had success with framing, you've had success with getting some policy guidance in there, but you really want to have a couple places where there's high leverage policy opportunities that you can sure get into all of your state plans. One of the things that we want to be able to do with this coalition work is to identify some really great work that might happen in Washington or in Idaho or in Kentucky and be able to grab that and share with all our states so that we have a few really great pieces of policy that we commend in ESSA. And of course, ongoing support after this ESSA plan moment for broader support for STEM. Let's take the next slide. We'll figure out what some of those deeds would be, all right? So what specifically do we want state and leaders to do? One is literally write in their plans that STEM is a priority. Two is to use that new flexibility, those new opportunities that they have in there to advance STEM learning, to provide the funds to meet challenge. Those are three things that every state across the country, all the national advocates, we're asking everyone to be able to lean in on those. It's also an opportunity, especially for you as state leaders in STEM, to advance a state-specific agenda. So priority, expanding those opportunities, providing the funding, and then different states are going to have different needs. Some may be pushing for computer science. Some may be pushing for more STEM teachers. Would like to have advanced mathematics in low-income districts that don't have advanced math for all 4 years. So be a state-specific piece that will naturally happen state capital by state capital. Let's take a look then at what I might do some of these things on the next slide. What we did is try to come together and say, how can we support this as a campaign effort, as an advocacy effort, and what would be helpful to do it? And so first is we wanted to, as Grace was saying, we're tasked with the idea of trying to organize and provide some strategy messaging and resources. Everything from an engagement hub that Thomas is going to go into in more detail, and hopefully many of you have had a chance to poke around with and see. Some message strategy and social shareables that live on that engagement site, so people download some talking points, some social materials. We said highlight ideal ESSA plans and ideal policy sets that are in there, and then work with some partners to do some policy development for folks who would like extra capacity to try to figure out how to, and how can you actually write maybe a good policy paper that you could loft into a conversation. And then to be able to grow this into grassroots engagement for ongoing support for STEM. And this is where we've said engagement with teachers is particularly key to make sure that teachers in the STEM disciplines are really engaged in this effort, and just more broadly than that to folks outside the typical STEM community so that they're able to support this work as well. Take a look at the next slide. Super specific now. We're asking folks to take a look at a few targets for engagement. And this in a minute we'll talk about grassroots versus grass tops. Actually, this is very much a grass tops suggestion at this point. There are a handful of people who will literally be writing and signing these state plans. One of these is going to be state education agencies, the chiefs and the key leadership there, and knowing that you exist and care about this, and really want to see it a priority and get how you can help them speak of STEM in ESSA language, in well-rounded and equity language, in addition to all the other ways we talk about it in terms of skills for the 21st century and jobs for the 21st century. So getting to state education agencies as they do these first drafts of these plans is critically important. There are stakeholder groups that some of you are already members of. They're formed specifically under the law. These first three are all advocacy that the law actually creates by having these people have specific roles in that. And one of these is governors. Brand to these state plans, but I think as probably most of you know by now, governors have the very final sign-off on all this. And while SEAs have to worry about, state chiefs have to worry about every single element of their state plan, all sorts of the educational pieces and components of this. They're going to be looking for like one or two or three things that they'll be asking their aid when it comes in. Are these three things in the plan? And so what we're recommending is is being able to reach out to the governor as that backstop and say, Governor Blunt, you have been such a strong supporter for STEM in this state. We're urging you to make sure that when you sign that plan, you ask your state chief, is STEM a priority in my plan, along with, I don't know, early childhood education and after-school time. There may be a couple priorities the governor might have. Most have STEM as a priority, and making sure that they know to ask that last-minute question before they sign on the dotted line is a high-leverage way to influence the plan. And then the ones in italics are ones that develop over time. There's really short time clock where states are developing their plans right now, but then this will be the first iteration, and expanding to a broader group of grassroots supporters, engaging leaders, say at the district level, district superintendents and teachers and principals over time, will just deepen the work, make it more meaningful, but we have sort of a time to influence these first drafts. Let's take a look at the next slide. I've asked if there's, for folks, this is, I think most of the folks on this webinar live with this in their heads. They know the distinction between advocacy and lobbying. Early on, though, we got some questions about it, so I'm just going to leave this up there for a sec for folks who are curious, who a lot of you have specific prohibitions against lobbying, and you might be concerned, could you even do some things we're talking about? Advocacy and lobbying are actually very different things, both emotionally and legally. So advocacy is really framing the issue, getting involved, making your voice heard, educating decision makers about what's in ESSA, the value of STEM pertains to well-rounded education, how it really does fit in the law and is written right in the law. Lobbying is about specific legislation or influencing public officials in that way, and it's not what we're encouraging here. In fact, take a look at the next slide, just to kind of clarify, and again, so what exactly would advocacy be? These are the types of very typical activities that are covered under an advocacy effort. And they're important. We're going to hold on this slide for just a second to take a look at some of the different ways there. Each of these types of tools has a slightly different impact, right? Commenting on the public plan seem like a super high leverage thing to do, or maybe not the most important thing, but the reason we're asking everyone to do it is because you want to make sure that at no point does a state education chief or a governor say, I never heard from the folks in STEM. You don't presume that just because that chief is with you and has been so good on STEM that's enough. You sometimes need to be able to point to the fact that, hey, did you see that letter to the editor? Did you see the comment that was filed? And lacking that, silence can sometimes get in a little bit of trouble. I know that was a case when I would look at plans that would come in, and I'd be sure that a community was going to give me the comment that I needed to be able to change the plan, and then it turns out that comment never came. There are a couple other tricks of trade that you can do that we'll talk about when we're actually into the site. Think of the next slide. I'm not going to spend about a second on this because we had a great conversation in Dallas about STEM messages. One of the things I wanted to have this slide in there for is for folks who were there, and we talked about the broad STEM messages. There was a specific comment that came up that someone had asked, what are we for specifically trying to influence X? And one of the X's there was Every Student Succeeds Act. And so what you see here and what you see on the website, successwithstem.org, are images that have that extra twist that are specifically focused around ESSA-friendly language or appropriate language. And you've seen and hopefully heard that throughout what I've said about focusing on a great education, well-rounded education, and ensuring equity without losing the other pieces that we talk about that a great STEM education and teaching and learning provide in terms of skills, 21st century critical thinking, and the skills that need for work in the future. I think a lot of folks know the calendar. Really going to focus people's attention on the last bolded one in the second column, December 2016 to April 2017. This is the window right now where states are revising and finalizing their state plans. And specifically, if you take a look at the last slide I have here, you'll see some of the states have begun to submit plans or have that they are going to submit plans soon. There are 2 windows to submit plans, April and September. Some of you are saying, isn't that a regulation that the Department of Education did, and might all regulations go away at 12:01 Friday? Yes and yes. Ours, however, is until the dust settles and folks figure out where things are going to land, we know that it's a time of a little bit of uncertainty. But right now, states have really been taking the guidance. CCSSO has encouraged them to do it, to just move forward with the dates and act as if everything is nothing's going to change in terms of the deadlines. Keep on going on implementing ESSA under those deadlines. And what that is, as I was saying, there are 2 dates to submit your plan, April and September. These 18 states, 17 plus the district, have just this week when they were required to inform the department that they are going to send in and look for an early review. And I think you see in there is there are some states that are in your STEMx network. There are some outside the network that are high flyers in STEM. And the ability to influence these plans, these early plans, will make a great difference in influencing the future plans, because we'll have tips and examples and policy ideas and specific language, if we're successful with this first wave right now, that we can very easily share as examples for the other 33 states that have decided they're going to take the summer to do it. I also suspect that even those states that will not submit until September are going pretty aggressively writing drafts in the next month or 2 anyway. And by the end of the week, we're actually going to put out something on the website, which is an update on the very latest for every single state's for plan development. The thing I'll say before we turn it over, because we'll have some questions here in just a second, is not only is this the right time in terms of the clock, the calendar, in terms of when to influence plans, but also the things, and a lot of folks might have been on the call, a different call yesterday that we had with Elliot Asp, who is a former chief from Colorado, and he's now with Achieve, and we're picking his brain on some ways that a state chief might like to get that information from the STEM community. And one of the things that he reinforced is, unfortunately, most states right now are still not thinking about their flexibility. They're not being particularly innovative. They're just worried about the very basics in the law. We're a little sad that they haven't embraced the in here. For our sake, it's actually very good, because we haven't missed a moment. We haven't missed a thing. Now is the time to begin to really push on that, to shape that, and be able to see that it's included in this, and then continue to provide some ideas for innovative ways that they can use this new flexibility to promote great STEM teaching and learning. Time to pause, see if any questions come up on this broader piece on our strategy and the advocacy effort and the goals behind it.
First, I'll give a reminder, just while folks are madly typing those questions in, you can type in the chat, and I will read what you put in there. Use that power wisely. You can unmute yourself in the system here, and just go ahead and jump in. We won't talk much longer. A question from Linda about where we access the information that's made available from 100kin10.
A perfect segue. If there's another question, I wonder if we write to Thomas, because the answer, Linda, is what Thomas is about to show you right now.
Yeah, great.
I'm happy to answer this question. Do we have a poll in between, or?
I do. I'm ready with it. I know that's what you've got coming up next here, so let me advance, and we'll get to that. The poll is started, so your 2 minutes have begun.
Great. And here's our question. Our question is, there are ways to engage online? Have you or retweeted about Every Student Succeeds with STEM? Have you been posting on Facebook, retweeting influencers, so actually tagging them, sharing of student success with STEM, or something else. And while answering that question, maybe I'll kind of share my story of success with STEM. So my name's Thomas Sanchez, and I'm one of the founders of Social Driver, and it's been a real honor being involved in this initiative and building the STEM hub. My background is in technology and software engineering. I worked as a software engineer for years before I started Social Driver, and even today I am working on web technologies all the time. And I'll tell you, not only am I a person, but I'm also a first-generation college graduate, and I can tell you that education makes a world of difference in people's lives, and it's something that I'm very involved in, not just with clients like this, but with different initiatives around the country. So I'm looking forward to seeing your answers here. How many do we have left? 30 seconds. All right, fantastic. Well, I'll tell you too, I'm going to be giving a demo of the hub and giving an overview of it, and so I'll actually be pulling it up and walking us through some cases and some examples, and hopefully helping you understand where the resources are at and how you can put them to use.
Although, of course, the system will take a moment to think about and present your results, and it'll take me a second to put these up. What was your STEM proficiency before you shifted over to communication?
Yeah, I was in computer science. And on the computer science advisory committee for a university, Missouri State University. Go Bats. But yeah, so and you know, I'm still very involved in technology, even though Social Driver is communications. You know, we build the websites, we do a lot with integration and stuff. So it's great to be able to still be in the field. Anthony, who you may have heard of from our December meeting, is the co-founder, and he's more focused on the communication side of things. The results.
Yeah, sorry everyone who has to watch me do that. I have WebEx windows over most of my screen, so it's a distracting process. But here are your results.
Well, it looks like tweeting and Facebooking are both pretty popular there. But I love that 78% here sharing stories of student success. I think that's a great thing to do. You know, it's great as well to get that community story out there. It helps you build the influencers up on. And we'll be talking a little bit about Twitter and Facebook and how we can get these advocacy and stories out there. That's fantastic. I love this poll thing. So can I share my screen now? Do that. Sorry, behind the scenes here. On my desktop. All right, my desktop should be shared soon if you're ready. This is the site, and one of the things I'm excited about sharing this today is that I understand that people have different levels of experience. Some people on this call have a lot of experience with social media and websites, advocacy. Folks are just getting started and learning their way around. So I'm going to keep this conversation at a level that everybody can understand, but hopefully everybody, including Joe and all the other panelists, can take away something maybe that they didn't know before. So I'm going to start out with the real basics, because I think Joe did a great job of framing the what and the what, and I'm really going to jump right into the how-to and some of the mechanics of Advocacy Hub. The very first thing I want to point out is the website address, www.successwithstem.org. You can't get if you don't know the website link, so I'm going to make sure that everybody had that, www.successwithstem.org. And we built this website using what we call mobile responsive technology. Now, that's just a buzzword for me, that it works on a desktop, laptop, a tablet, and a mobile phone. So you can get to that URL on any of those devices, and all the content should work just fine. And I'm going to walk through the homepage just real fast so that we can kind of get a feel for the Advocacy Hub and what we have built in here. The first thing is at the very, very top up here, when you're visiting from a desktop, you see those links. Those are our main links. We have home, learn more, get involved, resources, and others up there. I want to point out that something that's different when you're coming from a mobile phone or a tablet versus a screen is watch what happens when I make my screen a little smaller. Links go away, but they didn't go away. They went into this little menu over here on the side. Those little 3 lines are always the symbol for a menu, so if you see that on any website while you're on your mobile phone, you can always click that and a menu is going to pop up on the side. So just because those links go away do not mean that they are really gone. They're just screen room because the mobile screen's a little smaller. So on the home screen, we have a lot of different information. I'm going to jump down really quickly to the very bottom. This is something that's on every single screen on the website. It's our email address, successwithstem@100kin10.org. If there's any questions, even after this webinar, or anything you find that you want to see, you can always email this link, and somebody's going to get back to you. It's just right here at the very bottom. You can always click this little over here in the right-hand corner, and you can head over to our Success with STEM Twitter channel and see updates there as well. So I'm going to jump into the social shareables because I think this is one of the areas we can really get activity around fast. And I want to make sure that everybody understands how to use these and why we built them. We have 6 pre-built out social media shareables. These are built to, like Joe said, with framing them as a big part of ESSA. Everything on the site is through that lens, and these 6 shareables are no exception. These are for you to be able to turnkey use these in your advocacy and your social media advocacy and outreach. There's 3 ways you can use them. The first is you can just download the image. You do that by clicking on the image itself on the social media shareable. You'll see that it just downloads the graphic to your computer. Why want to do that? Well, you want to include these in your email list. So many people have an email newsletter that they send out. You can include this right in there. You can also email it to the chief or a stakeholder or even to the governor's office directly through email. It's a good to share it with your stakeholders too to get them to do that out. You can also then upload it directly into Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and you can pretty much upload it anywhere you need to. If you have questions about how to download the image or upload it into email or social media network, just shoot us an email and we'll try to get those instructions back to you. So the other way that you can share these shareables is by directly linking to Facebook and Twitter. And so under every shareable, we have a link to Facebook. There, 2 tips, and these are power tips. Before you click those links, you need to make sure that you're logged into Facebook or Twitter. If you are not, then what you're going to see is a screen that looks like this. And you have to log into Twitter and then go back to the website and click the link again. So that's point 1. And point 2, power tip 2, is you need to make sure you're logged in with the right account. I know that many people work from home or their kids get on their computer or their phone and they log into their own social media accounts. You know, kids' friends don't want to be seeing this, and that's not what these are meant for. So just make sure before you click the share button that you are logged into Facebook or Twitter and that you're logged in with the account that you want the message to go out from, because otherwise you're not going to really know. So let me show you what it looks like when you are logged in. I'm going to click the share on Twitter link, and it puts a little blur text there. You don't want to erase that or make any modifications to that whatsoever, but you want to include some hashtags. Hashtags are how people find things and filter down content and conversations on social media. So in this case, we might want to say STEM. The other thing you might want to do is you might want to @ your governor in your state. I'm originally from Missouri, so we'd say, hey, governor. Well, maybe I shouldn't actually tweet at the governor. We'll make it seem like I'm the governor of Missouri. We want to say something like that. You know, we need, you know, blah blah blah, and then you're gonna write out your tweet. click tweet, and what you're going to see is when you do that, it automatically pulls in the image. You can see the link back to the website, and you can see that I have my hashtags and my link to the governor. The reason you want to include that at because it's going to send a little alert to their phone or to their computer or maybe to their communication staff, depending on if the governor actually uses Twitter themselves, and they're going to see that somebody's been tweeting at them, and it's huge for advocacy. It's like putting a letter or an op-ed in the newspaper. Everybody gets to see you tweeted at the governor and that your position's now public. So that's kind of the three ways that you can use these shareables. You can download it and upload it to an email or into a social network. You can click the share buttons down below and make sure that you're logged in and you're using hashtags and you're tagging folks. Another
audio there for a second.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. My phone dropped. All right, so I'm going to jump right into the Resource Center. I apologize for that. The Resource Center is a great area of the site that you should become familiar with because this is where all the tools and resources to learn more about ESSA and how to promote STEM learning for your state leaders. So, to know on this site, we have a search engine so you can see all the resources. In Google, it's not going to search the whole internet. It just searches the resources that we've added to the site. We have categories. This is a way to filter down. And then below that, we have the links to all of our resources. And at the very bottom, we have a Load More button where you can just keep scanning and clicking Load More. Right. So the way that this works is if you click like one of the resource categories, like advocacy tools, you'll see that down below, it changes the results. So you can dive into a category. You can always go back up by clicking Show All again. That would filter down. You don't have to dig through so much. You can also search links. We have documents. We have articles up here that you can access. You open up one of the resources here, and all of them will have like a little gold link. So you can download the resource. In this case, it's a PDF document. You can click that, download it to your computer. We also have the social media shareables here, so you can always share any link on the website. You can always bookmark any link or share a link by clicking these buttons, or at the top, highlight URL and copy and pasting that into social media or an email or into your bookmarked list. A lot of sites, the URL doesn't change like that, but this site, we specifically designed it so that it would have that ability. And then you can always go back to the Resource Center and start over by clicking the resources link up at the top. Couple tips here. One, whenever you're trying to open up the document on your phone or on your computer, you can either click the title or you can click Read More link. They go to the same place, but if you just click in the middle, it doesn't do anything. I've had a couple people think that maybe the whole thing should be a link, but really it's just the top and the bottom. That's so it's easier to copy and paste that area. So that's the Resource Center. This is going to be refreshed, and we're continually, like Joe said, we're constantly adding new resources up here. So this is an area you definitely want to check back for updates in. And quick, we have Learn More. This is where you learn more about what STEM and ESSA and what 100K and are doing through the Solutions Lab. We have the News Center. Right now we have 3 or 4 articles up in this area, but we're going to constantly be adding more. So this is another area you want to check back in. And then we have the Get Involved. And this is where you can get some of the messaging and so on relating to the STEM advocacy and kind of some of the talking points. So remember, you can post resources out on social media. You can always bookmark or share any of the pages on the site. And then keep checking back for updates. Joe and Grace and all the team are constantly looking for new things to get into the Advocacy Hub. Okay, back to you, Robert.
Okay. I'm going to switch and just go ahead, but I think really, and we're getting close to the end of our time together today. The time is mostly here set for as an opportunity for you to ask your questions. There, my screen started. I'll go ahead and put up, I think, what is your final slide here, which is next steps for state engagement, but also really ready to take your questions. So we're just looking here. Let me reorganize my windows, or folks, you're to unmute and go ahead and weigh in. Go ahead and ask a question here, Thomas, just to kick things off a little bit. So you've seen a lot of states using these resources. Are there any executions that you've seen be particularly effective, where if people are trying to figure out how this looks when somebody starts using it, where, should they look at Arkansas, should they look at Colorado, those kind of things for just a primer to see these things in action?
Yeah, Joe probably has a little bit more information about the individual states, but I'll tell you, it goes like along the path of what Joe was talking about earlier. You have your top roots, grass tops. So the grass top's going to be the conversation that you're having from the lead of your organization, even from your organization's official social media channels. It's going to be your email newsletter, your official Facebook and Twitter, and you're wanting to set the message there. But you also want to enable people that are in your network, employees or key stakeholders, board members, to also have the power tools to be able to share with their own accounts, with their own names, adding their own legitimacy to the conversation. That's when you have a really powerful campaign that's social media enabled. Is there anything you'd add to that?
No, nothing in terms of the type pieces there, but also states in slightly different places. We haven't seen, as I think most folks on this webinar particularly know. So I think, Rob, it might change that a little bit from having certain states, doing one thing versus another, and more might suggest to, if folks have one thing to take away to go and play with while they're looking at these sort of next step slides. When you what Thomas showed you in the Get Involved section, there's a link at the very bottom of that gives you some of the materials, some of the ways that Thomas was just saying to try to go out and reach people. That there is a bit of a toolkit right now to help, regardless of the state, to be able to comment and get out to the EA and reach out to the governors. Some tips about letter and commenting is great. At folks, if they said, hey, nice job, as Anthony was telling us down in Dallas, that's a great one to affirm that they've done something good. Or also, hey, don't forget to make this a priority. I want to underscore the idea of calling directly your organization to the governor, to the chief, else in the organization, or a key advocate, calling directly to someone at the SEA or in the governor's office. It was a great time story revealed the truth that we all kind of suspected, that formulas sometimes go in the don't get looked at. But that phone call, really, you'll be surprised that only 5 or 10 phone calls make someone say that my phone has been ringing off the hook, and that's kind of universal across a bunch of different states.
Let me see. This is the section that you were about there, Joe.
Sure. You see, each of those has a hyperlink and a button, and if you went to say contact your state's chief state school officer and governor, if you went to that link. I think that, yep, you'll see a little bit of text there, and then you'll see right there the directory, which pops up to an Excel spreadsheet of the email addresses and contact information for all the state chiefs and all the governors. And a toolkit that just went up, as Thomas was saying and Grace was saying, we're trying to add new information all the time. Toolkit just went up last night, kind of laying out exactly sort of the steps to take to send an email or a letter or to contact when you're trying to reach out to your chief state school officer. And so those tips are packaged in there with the advice. So this is the really perfect time to go ahead and to engage those folks there. Thank you. you're saying if there's another question, I'll just finish up with what's 3, 4, and 5 mean as we are coming to the end of our time. In a few weeks, Anthony, who again we talk about it like you know him because you do, because we had that great session in Dallas with Anthony giving us some specific social media tricks. He and his team, the rest of Thomas's team, are working on a social media action pack. In the very immediate, everything Thomas just showed you would be great to tweet at folks, to send those social shareables, to get into the conversation right now. There's also a big kit, a little bit like the toolkit that you just saw flash there in terms of comment, letter writing. There's a version of that to help folks with social media that is developed and will come up in the next couple weeks on the site. Ongoing policy work that folks have specific policy ideas or some help fleshing out some specific policy will be invited to join. Grace from time to time, she's already done that and will continue to in the future. So those are the other two things about immediate next steps to either watch for or they're already circulating out there and you can jump on in.
Great. Well, I'm seeing no further questions. I think I'll start to wrap us up here with one comment that came into us from Lynn, Arizona, who just says the tools are amazing, and she offers a thank you to the group for helping pull those together. I think we're so glad to be a close partner with 100kin10 on this and a lot of other work, and glad to be able to introduce everybody on the webinar to the folks from Collaborative and Social Driver and take a view of their work and think about how we can start using them as effective tools for our networks and our challenges. With that, just offer the general STEMx calls to action, right? If you haven't signed up for our blog, you're missing out on a weekly update on STEM, including certainly the notes that we're publishing every week from our conversation at STEMx Exchange and other items of interest. And if you're a STEMx member, we'll offer a little reminder, those surveys about which working group you're going to be meeting and providing some your expertise with the other members. Those surveys are out in the field, so we could use your responses there and start planning our action around things like communications and policy advocacy and all of the goals that we're going to start tackling as we move out in January and start burning through the 11 months we've got left in a very, very busy year. Okay, everybody, it was great to talk with you, and we will see you again next month.
Very much.
All right, thank you.